Divader 500 here. So in this video I'm going to be making a review of the hardware of the Virtue OLED board for the Ego 8, Ego 9, just Ego 8, Ego 7 and Geo. So this is standard Virtue OLED board, and I'm going to be just pointing out what I didn't like about this board and something to note between this board and maybe the Tadao board or the original board. Obviously, if you have the original board and the board for the Ego 8, Ego 7 is working fine, you should not even think about buying this thing. Don't even think about it if it's working fine. My board was having some problems, timing issues, so I just had to change it. And because my Ego is from 2007, it's off of warranty, so I just had to buy something new. And so I couldn't get the Tadao OLED board because of some issues between the billing address and the shipping address and all that shit. So I had to get this board. Remember, this board is priced at about $185, $180, somewhere between that, and it's a pretty expensive board compared to the Tadao OLED board, because the Tadao OLED board is $150 on most websites. ANS Gear is selling it for $150, and so do many more. So we'll get started. The first thing I noticed on this board was the buttons, these two buttons. It doesn't have three, so it makes the third button pretty much useless on the Ego, because obviously there's nothing there. And something I didn't like about those two buttons, first of all, because there are two buttons, you turn the gun on with the top button, so you have to press this button and it turns on, and you do the same thing to turn it off. And as for the eyes, you use the lower button to turn the eyes off and on. So let's just turn this thing off. One thing I did like about this gun was the fact that there's a little speaker right there. Obviously it's not a high-powered speaker like Bose or Sony or anything. It's just a little beeping speaker, which is great because Ego 9s and Ego 10s, Ego 11s, Geo 1s, Geo 2s, when you power them on or power them off, they make noises. So it's pretty good if you have an older gun like this one. Second thing I didn't like about this thing is mainly the fact of the micro switch. It only comes with a micro switch, not an optical like the original board, and that pretty much sucks because some people don't like the micro switch. I like the micro switch, so it's not really that much of a problem to me. But I mean, yeah, you should have thought about that more, Virtue. If the stock board is just having both of them, then it's gonna be pretty much something that people aren't gonna think about buying unless they have problems. So you gotta keep the pace up a little bit, Virtue. And another thing I didn't like about this board that you really can't see on the picture of the board until you see it personally is the fact of where the micro switch is seated. The micro switch should be up here, because that's where this is the micro switch adjustment screw. As you can see, the micro switch is not even there. The micro switch is being clicked by the optical breakaway thingy there. So, and the optical thing is not, you can't even adjust it. So you're pretty much stuck. The only way to adjust how soon you click the trigger is by how far away the trigger is. If the trigger is farther away, if it's in this angle, then it's the micro switch is going to be a little bit, there's going to be a little bit more of a longer pull. If it's closer to the frame, then it's going to be a shorter pull. But you really can't adjust how the trigger is seated because the micro switch is stuck like that, which pretty much sucks also, because if you buy a separate trigger for this, I bought a CP rate trigger for this thing, and the optical thing was sitting right in the edge of the micro switch, so I didn't want to even put it in there because first of all, it might just skip or bend the micro switch lever and then damage the micro switch, which is going to be a pain in the ass. So I just left the stock trigger in there, and the micro switch being in there makes the trigger a little bit harder to pull, which me in my case I don't mind, because you actually get to feel the micro switch instead of just pulling the trigger and not even feeling it. So there's an upside on that, but that's just me personally, so don't focus on that. It's all your options, your decision. Another thing, I kind of find it as a downfall and an upside about this is the way the battery's placed. As you can see, they removed the prongs and put a battery wire harness. Downside is the battery is not going to be pressed against the frame, so it might wiggle a little bit. My battery doesn't wiggle any at all. That's just because it's kind of tight. Again, frames are different. They're not all exactly the same. Yet I might be wrong. I really don't know. So please don't just, it's all on your decision. Don't focus on what I'm saying. Just see what I'm saying and you decide after this. Obviously, I already have my virtual board, so I can't do anything about it. So I'm just commenting it to let everybody know. The upside I see on this thing is if you damage the battery harness, you can replace it. You can unplug it, take it off, and plug another one on. So that's an upside. If the prongs got bent by you putting the battery, it's either A, you have to bend them back in and you might damage the board, or B, if you do that, you might lose warranty. If you try to bend them back in and you break it, you might lose warranty. Yet again, I'm not sure, so that's just my point of view. Obviously, the software in this thing is really good. One thing I really do like is the what's the name? The training modes, which are fantastic in my opinion. And the only thing I didn't like is that Tadao is, as I said, is selling them for 150, and the Tadao actually has the micro switch in the right spot. It's got an optical, it's got the 3 buttons, obviously the OLED screen, and it's got a USB connector already installed into the board. That's the Violent Yakuza series OLED board for the Ego 7, Ego 8s, and Geos. One thing I did like about this board over the Tadao OLED board is the fact that it makes sounds, and it's got the training modes, but it's kind of you decide what you want, but obviously you're gonna want the micro switch optical, the USB connection, and all the buttons over just these 2 little upsides about this board. Also, this board, you can actually plug it into a USB, but you have to buy the adapter for it. I mean, you're selling this thing for $185, competing against a board that's better than you for $150. You should at least include the USB connector. It's $15, not that much, but still, open your eyes, Virtue. Look at what you're doing. Man, well, yeah, you've got a lot of adjustments here, and it's actually pretty. The board is awesome, that I cannot deny, but I mean, just you should have thought a little bit more about the hardware, Virtue. And software is good. It's the same software used on all Virtue boards. They give you the exact manual of all the Virtue OLED boards. They even tell you some like Ego settings and Geo settings and Angel settings, whatever. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good board. Just think about it before you go into the Tadao or the Virtue board. Of course, if you go Virtue board for a DM9, Virtue OLED board for the DM series ultralight, then obviously the OLED board is going to be better because you're going to have wraparound grips compared to the Tadao. So there's ups and minuses between Tadao and Virtue, but on the Ego side, I think Virtue's not thinking properly, because they're competing with a board, a stock board that's better than theirs. I mean, And if you really want to upgrade, if Virtue wants them to buy these boards, you gotta put something that's actually better, other than the less battery wasted because you're changing from an LCD to an OLED board. That's just bullshit. It's not gonna work enough. Obviously, you're just gonna change an ego board because you're having malfunctions and you can't get warranty over it. That's pretty much it. So that's pretty much my review on the Virtue OLED board. Hope you like this review. I think I'm gonna be doing a software review on this thing soon because I'm running out of memory on my camera, as I just did like 3 videos right now. So I'll be doing a Hushbolt review also. And well, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Comment, rate, subscribe. Thank you.